Hey everybody, this is Hamma here for the Araxis Global Network and PlanetSide-Universe.com for another episode of AGN Instant Action. So this time we're going to talk a little bit more about eSports once again, because Jenny Boo and I just got back from MLG Dallas, where they just announced the various eSport details and at least an initial view of what we can expect in the game. So they did announce that eSports will consist of Platoon versus Platoon to begin with. That's kind of the first place that they're going to take things. And then from there on out, they're going to kind of expand and try out some other things. So it looks like we're going to be looking at 48 versus 48. Teams will also only be able to practice in the open world, so there'll be no private instance servers or anything like that for practice. So basically that means that all the folks who decide to participate in esports are still going to be forced to play the actual game. So one of the main fears that floats around out there is that, you know, esports is going to completely take away from the game and what it is and what it's supposed to be. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this kind of proves that that's not going to occur. Now you're going to have outfits taken out of the actual game world occasionally for actual ladder matches and things like that. But in the long run, you know, they're still going to have to participate just like everybody else. So I don't see this as taking away from the game itself in terms of, you know, the immersion and the amount of players that you're going to have around fighting. So there'll be kind of pared down maps. So think of a part of a biolab or something like that, a section of the map that people are already familiar with. Those will be where the actual esports take place. They'll be fighting over specific objectives in smaller maps that are designed specifically for esports matches. However, they will be pulled from the game world itself so that folks will already be somewhat familiar with them. Additionally, weapon choices will be limited based on balance. So what that means is that you're not going to be able to take absolutely any weapon you want in there, anything that you purchased off with Station Cash or anything like that. You're only going to be able to take a specific list of weapons in there. This is to make sure that everybody is on equal footing, and so that if they release a weapon, you know, a few days before a match, that weapon is not fully balanced yet. It won't totally offset the match itself. So that's kind of a good thing, and it's kind of something that would have to be done in this case. Now, Higby also dropped by PlanetSide Universe and kind of rolled out a couple of other details about it that we hadn't heard yet from the announcement. Basically, what's going to happen is there's going to be multiple ladders, so that any size outfit is going to kind of be competing for a spot in actual matches. And this is going to be, as I said, occurring in the game world itself. The start out is going to be 48 versus 48, and so one of, obviously, my main concerns is the fact that, well, in order to have 48 people in a platoon active, you have to have a pretty huge membership. My outfit is, last time I looked, I think it was about 60 people. We're not going to get 48 versus 48. We're not going to be able to field a platoon for esports. It's just not going to happen. Anybody who runs an outfit or team knows that, you know, basically you have to have almost double the numbers if you want to actually field that many active members. It's just the way things work, and it's just the way teams online work, and it's not unique to PlanetSide too. It's basically, it's in every game that I've ever played that we've experienced this sort of thing. Higby also noted that the game is capable of doing 12 versus 12 or 250 versus 250, and they're kind of exploring all those different options to see how they can make them work, but they are going to concentrate on 48 versus 48 for the initial map size for esports. So he also dropped by and talked a little bit about some of the other concerns that were brought up in the community, and that was, one of them was basically how are these people going to be represented at actual MLG matches. Basically what they'll do is they'll have a variety of people at the MLG event for these things, about 5 people, squad leaders and a platoon leader, and so those folks will go out to MLG events and represent their outfits in matches, you know, when we get to that point. I'm assuming that this will also be tied into MLG's ladder system that's on their website, so that you can actually go online and see what's going on in the various rankings and stuff like that. So I'm sure that's going to be a piece of it as well. It will also support interfaction fights, so you can fight TR versus TR, NC versus NC, and so on. And they've discussed 3-way fights, although that's not something that they're going to do right off the bat. Now, another thing that forever comes up in these situations is, you know, everybody's like, oh my god, this is, you know, this is taking away from development time of X, Y, or Z. You know, Higby went in and cleared this up in the thread and basically said, you know, the team is big. There's a lot of different people working on different things. And, you know, that's true. I mean, just because they're working on one thing and they're putting a lot of focus on it doesn't mean that other stuff isn't getting done. Teams are not small. I mean, last I heard, the PlanetSide 2 team was, I believe it was over 100 people, or at least somewhere around there. So there's more than enough manpower to be able to do more than one thing. And the folks that are doing this stuff are not the folks that are fixing your performance issues or anything like that. They're probably working on esports, and they're probably working on esports only, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Now let's get into kind of my thoughts on esports and PlanetSide 2 and just talk a little bit about that before we wrap it up. So, I for one, have not been a huge fan of esports over the years, just simply because, probably mainly because I didn't really have any interest in the games that were a part of esports. Don't care about Call of Duty, don't really care about League of Legends. StarCraft is interesting to watch, but I'm not really much of a fan of that either. However, I do think there is potential for this, and I know that, a lot of people don't think there is, but I really do think there's potential for this to become something big, because it's a game that's very unique, and if they manage to pull it off, I think that they can actually do a very cool thing with this, and it could be hugely popular. Now, that being said, you do have to pull it off, and you have to pull it off almost perfectly. So, whether or not they can do it, remains to be seen. We've got a lot of time for them to start kind of putting this together and seeing where it goes. However, I do think that it's going to be something that will be successful in the end, I hope, anyway, just for the state of the game. I was a Tribes player back in the day, and I participated in a variety of matches, and even though those weren't on, the scale of MLG is nowadays, there were some very interesting matches, and listening to the broadcasts of those matches was extremely exciting. And there's a lot of people who say, oh, I don't like esports, I don't like to watch it, I don't understand why people watch it, so on and so forth. The reason people watch it is because they like to watch competition, and so it's the same reason people watch basketball, baseball, football, and so on. So it is something that is going to get bigger as time goes on, and it's something that's going to be here to stay, whether or not folks like it or not. Whether or not it's here to stay in PlanetSide 2, very much remains to be seen. But I do believe that there is potential there for it, and it could be interesting. Another big piece of making sure this works, and there was an article on Mittani, I believe that's how you say it, that kind of covered this, is that you've got to make sure that there's a solid observer, esports type of observer mode in the game. I saw Call of Duty over the weekend, and that had a very interesting observer mode where you could see the map and you could move from player to player and see what they were kind of doing. So in order to make it a spectator sport, the observer cam that they have now, it's not going to work. They're going to have to really kick it up quite a few notches so that you can actually lock onto players and view the fight from their view, and actually lock onto players, externally, and view their health, how much ammo they have left, how much energy they have, stuff like that. You're going to need to be able to see that to make it a spectator esport. I'm sure the devs know this, but that's very much a pretty big piece of making sure that this works out the way that they want it to. Another thing that I've mentioned in the past is that whether or not you like this idea or have any plans to take part in it, it is good for the game, because it means that there are thousands and thousands more people getting a view of the game who may not normally have gotten a view of it before. So it's going to help to get new blood into the game, and new folks interested in the game, and new people infused into the community. So it does benefit us in the end, regardless of whether or not you like esports. So it's a good thing, in the end, regardless, as I said. So definitely, I saw quite a few new players that kind of got hooked on the game over this past weekend. And Jen and I saw that the last time we were there too. So showing people around the game and kind of seeing their experience and helping them out is actually helping the dev team as well, because we can give that feedback back to them about kind of some of the main things that people ask us about. So in the end, this is a good thing. PlanetSide 2 is getting out there in front of a lot of people. Even if esports doesn't work, at least it's going to expand and grow the community. And the folks that we're getting are not going to be all elitist, hardcore, FPS players who are just total competition and that's all they care about. There are tons and tons and tons of people who watch esports, that aren't that. There was a father and son that were playing the game together, and just the folks who watch esports are very similar to the folks who watch other competitions. So, you know, not everybody who is participating in it is going to just totally destroy this community. So that's not a concern that I really have at all. You know, there's potential for that on the teams themselves, and there's definitely potential for some elitism, but, you know, overall, the people who are interested in this game, who are going to play it, you know, they're not like that, and they're not all competitors, so. Okay, everybody, thanks for tuning in here to another episode of AGN Instant Action. We'll be putting together another patch notes video here very soon. I'm going to do it not just for Game Update 4, but for whatever happens here in the next couple weeks. I didn't get a chance to do one for Game Update 4 specifically, just simply because we were about to head out to MLG and the timing just didn't work out for us. So I've actually already started putting it together, and as more stuff happens over the next week or two, I will go ahead and release that video. I'm going to do it in the same format as I did it last time and narrate as I kind of walk around the game and show stuff. So be sure to give me your feedback on that. And I'm very interested in your feedback on esports as well, so be sure to do that in the comments and on the comment thread on PSU. Until next time, I am Hamma for the Araxis Global Network and PlanetSide-Universe.com. You guys have a good one.